Well, let's speak to politics professor Matt Goodwin, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning, Matt. And we're talking about this new GBNews poll. What are your main takeaways from it?
Well, in some ways, the poll is a pretty consistent story with what we've got nationally. In other polls, we've got a commanding 20-point lead for the Labour Party. That's more than what they need for a Labour majority. Crucially, though, look at the difference between the Conservatives and the Reform Party. Conservatives, 19%. The Reform Party, 17%. Nigel Farage and his party just 2 points behind. That's within the margin of error. Everybody in Westminster, as you know, Ellie, is talking about the possibility of an inflection or crossover point where Reform may draw level, if not replace the Conservatives. That's definitely something to watch. We've also got a significant number of voters who are saying openly, when asked who should run the country, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party comes top, followed by Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, then Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives. But listen, the top answer there, the most popular, and I think your discussion just picked up on this, was none of the above. None of the above is the winner, I think, of the 2024 general election. Everybody looking at Labour and the Conservatives saying, you know what, I'm just fed up with everybody in Westminster. So, yes, big Labour leads. Keir Starmer beating Rishi Sunak in those snap debate polls. But look, the real story out there is one of apathy, disillusionment with British politics.
Explain to us the difference, because I can't get my head around this, Matt. Why is it a different result when you say, you know, who would you vote for tomorrow compared to who would you like to see running the country?
Well, in some ways, they're picking up on similar sentiment. But obviously, when you're asking people about who would you like to lead the country, you're specifically mentioning the names of individual leaders. You're mentioning Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, Nigel Farage, and you're asking people really a bit more of a specific question. Who do you actually want in number 10? And more often than not, they're broadly consistent. Here again, we have Labour number 1. The difference, of course, is when people are actively encouraged to think about the possibility of Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, they become more enthusiastic about that option. But look, Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives on every measure, got to be honest with you, Stephen, I mean, I'm getting worried for the Conservative Party in the sense that I've never seen numbers this low. I mean, this week across all polls, not just the GB People's poll, we got the Conservatives averaging 21% of the vote. I mean, this is remarkable. I mean, it's Extinction level event. So as I keep saying, you know, we're either heading towards a massive Labour majority or we're heading towards the biggest mistake and blunder in the history of the polling industry, which if that happens, might as well pack up shop and go home.
I mean, and it's actually the first time we're hearing that from the Tories themselves, warning about a supermajority for Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, which is really interesting. Can I ask you about D-Day and Rishi Sunak leaving that ceremony early last week? It was started, that questioning, last night on Sky News. Do you think this is something that he can shake? This was asked in the poll as well, wasn't it?
I actually think this is the event we're going to come back and remember from this general election campaign. This is the event that historians are going to write about when they talk about the 24 general election. Why do I say that? Because in the aftermath of D-Day, we've seen the Conservative vote share slide to new lows. Rishi Sunak's leadership ratings have crashed after D-Day to about -27, the lowest level on record, lower even than Liz Truss and Boris Johnson at the worst points of their premiership. But as you can see with our GB People's poll, a quarter of the country, 24%, are saying, actually, this made me think worse of Rishi Sunak. Now, when you consider that 40% already felt negatively about him, you know, that quarter is a big number. People have noticed this story. They don't like it. And, you know, as I said on X yesterday, the problem for D-Day is this. It's not just that he came home early. It's that it's raised a question in the minds of voters as to, does this guy actually believe in Britain? And it's a diffuse, sort of palpable sense out there in the country, if you like, that maybe the elites in charge of Britain aren't quite as connected with our history, our culture, defending the achievements of the past as they should be. And that is where he's come unstuck, because obviously you've then had Reform and Nigel Farage really pinning him on that issue. And of course, 2019 Conservatives, they really do not like Rishi Sunak leaving that anniversary early.
Do you think it's hit him? in the sense that last night, it's got to be said, I mean, Keir Starmer really a bit evasive, not answering a question in a straight manner, but Rishi Sunak, well, he answered the questions, but he did look like a defeated man.
Listen, I've been told by Conservatives who are very connected into the party and into the government operation that there's a sense of resignation in the air, that people have been shocked as to how on earth that decision could have been made, especially given that you are competing with, you know, people like Nigel Farage, who you obviously press the patriotic button. By the way, I was actually in Clacton at the weekend, and D-Day kept coming up on the doorstep. Why? Because it's the oldest seat in the country with lots of veterans. So I think, you know, it's one of these issues that is going to run through everything. And it also, you know, if you go back to the really big leaders' debates, what struck me most about that was the speed at which Penny Mordaunt threw Rishi Sunak under the bus, basically saying the Prime Minister had been wrong to come home early. So already you're seeing prominent Conservatives criticise him too, but also position themselves for that leadership election, which presumably is going to come after the general election on July 4th. I imagine this summer will be a very eventful summer politically within the Conservative Party. But yeah, this is one of the biggest blunders of Rishi Sunak's entire premiership.
Matt Goodwin, thank you very much indeed.